and kind of resume our normal schedule. But I'm so excited that we were able to have somebody today who is like one of my heroes because over the years he's done so much for the Junior Orange Bowl and for basketball. Um, he is Chuck Little. Chuck, welcome. Thank you for coming today.
Good morning,
Uh,
Gloria.
Chuck is a past president of the Junior Orange Bowl, and we've met, golly, was it like 40 years ago? It was so many years ago. And he's done so much. So I'm really excited to share what's going on and how they're dealing. Well, also about the history, but also how they're dealing with COVID this year. Everybody's been challenged, and Chuck is no exception, but he always manages to make things happen. And thank God you've got a lot of support over the years from your Kiwanis Club. And so tell me, uh, what happened this year that made things so different?
Well, it started actually with the beginnings of the outbreak of the COVID virus. We were actually at that time in the middle of our preparation for our middle school version of our events, and it was actually the first weekend that the school system decided to halt athletic activities, and we literally were ready to tip off on a Friday afternoon. And I found out Friday at noontime that all of our game workers were going to be quarantined if they came to our events, and so that put us at a halt. And that was just the beginning of the same process that everyone else throughout the county felt. We ended up canceling both the girls and the boys middle school event. We do a summer camp event typically for the high school teams that got canceled. Coming into the early run up to the basketball season in the fall, we do a warm up event, which got canceled. And so now we're coming up on our largest event of the year, Junior Orange Bowl Basketball Classic, which we are going to be able to host this year. It's going to look different. And actually, back at the same time frame that we were working on the middle school event, I already had contracts for 6 national teams to come down to South Florida. 2 girls teams from Pennsylvania, 1 girls team from North Carolina, boys team from New York, boys team from Ohio, and another boys team from Virginia. And one by one, they had to cancel. And
Yeah,
so, understandably, I know all the coaches were very apologetic. I said, no, there's no apologies this year.
for sure.
It's just understood that there's no bad feelings. We left on great terms. We actually over the weekend, I still talked to 2 or 3 of those coaches to say how is their season going. It's just this year is different, and so therefore we replaced all those spots with good South Florida teams, and so this year's event is going to be strictly a South Florida team event. We've got on the girls' side, we've got 4 Broward County teams and 4 Dade County teams, and on the boys' side, we've got all 8 Miami-Dade County teams.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm so happy you were able to find also a school that would accommodate you because you were
That
telling
was
me that the Miami-Dade schools can't have.
that was part of the process that
Yeah.
we've been in constant conversation with Miami-Dade County Public Schools because effectively we are just a part of Miami-Dade County's regular
Mhm.
schedule. And so um,
That's you.
I just turned it off. Uh, but we had to be aware of what their process was. And so they came back to us about 2 or 3 weeks ago that said we could host the event at a Dade County school, but there would be no fans. And so we then consulted around the community. And one of the things we realized that many of the children playing in our events are probably not going to be able to play in front of their parents all year long.
Right.
And so we felt it was a strong enough incentive for us to work out an alternative. And so Westminster Christian School stepped up and said that they would be glad to host us. And we're going to host the tournament there this year. A very good group of people to work with. And so it's going to allow us to have the tournament on with a significant restriction on number of people in the gym. We're only allowing a maximum of 50 tickets per team. So each game, the most we can have in the gym is 100 people. And then at the end of each game, they'll clear the gym, they'll sanitize and clean the gym, and then we'll bring the next game back in. The next group of fans will come in, and the next teams will come in, and so we'll do that 8 different times during the day. And so it's a significant burden on the school and on our schedule. It's going to be a very tight schedule to try to keep it from ending up at midnight. But we're going to
It's
do
happened before.
we'll do the best that we can. Actually, Westminster is very well set up to do this. They have an alternative gym that we can do warm ups and be ready to go, so
Oh,
that the
wow.
kids will be ready to play, and then we'll jump over to the main gym when the cleaning is finished. And so it's a good setup. It's a challenge. The referees know it's a challenge in terms of the timeline of the event, but we're going to get through it.
Well, hats off to you, because I know we were talking about his wife has to give up traveling during the holidays because this happens every year. So Chuck says it's for better, for worse. Well, during this time of the year, you're getting the worst. But if your worst is the worst it ever gets, that's pretty good.
Well, it comes with the benefits. So
Yeah.
people ask, why do you do this? And the answer is because I can. I'm fortunate enough through my work and through my life that I've developed good relationships around the community. And trust me, this is not all a one-sided arrangement. I get a great deal of satisfaction from working with these coaches and the kids. And so the benefits I receive from doing my part to put these events on, it's a great benefit.
Well, it's really so obvious. From the time I met you, it started off with Andy Weston doing like youth tournament years ago, and gradually handed it over to you, and it's never been the same. For me, Chuck is Mr. Junior Orange Bowl basketball, and he always will be. Nobody could have possibly done what you've done over the years, from the contacts you have to getting those out-of-state teams to come. And then, one of the things that we talked about you did that I just loved every year is when the out-of-state teams came, you had a project for them to do that they loved. Tell us about that.
Well, and this year is going to be, that's one of the things affected by the COVID virus.
Exactly.
But in 2006, a good friend and colleague, Kevin Sutton, who was at that time coaching at Montverde Academy up in Orlando, has a strong national team, but also a very committed coach in terms of outreach to the community, was coming into our tournament, and he asked if there was a community service opportunity to put together for them while they came to our tournament. We took a look at Nicholas Children's Hospital, which at that time was Miami Children's Hospital, to see about having visitations at the hospital, but because of infectious disease considerations, it was not a good match because of the numbers of team players involved, et cetera. And so then we reached out to another organization that we work with through my Kiwanis Club, that's now known as the WOW Center. Back then it was known as the Community Rehabilitation Center, or Habilitation Center. It's now known as the WOW Center for mentally handicapped adults. And so it's an education and teaching facility in Southwest Miami-Dade County. And so we put together, we call it a clinic, but really it's just it's a fun time of interacting between the athletes and the adults there at the center. They do have it out on the basketball court. They play games, they run drills, and it's a very enjoyable opportunity. So every year since 2006, and so through last year, we did it 14 years in a row. We've involved many teams from around the country. The last several years, especially, whenever I had teams who would come back to us for a second visit, the first thing that they would say is, "Okay, we're coming back, but we want to go to the WOW Center."
Yeah, and that always touched my heart.
And last year, actually, two of our boys' teams, one from Mount Joseph High School in Baltimore, Maryland, and Mount Lebanon High School in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Both of those coaches were repeat coaches to our tournament and also repeat coaches at the Wow Center because
Wow.
they said they really wanted to do it. And last year we had a girls team from the Cleveland, Ohio area that wanted to be part of that activity, and so uh, it's a great event. It's each time the new coaches to that project would ask me, okay, well, what do we do and how do we do it? I said, well, after about 5 minutes on the court, you'll know. It's just the thing is just to have fun with them, do a little bit of basketball, but just figure out games to play with them, and they'll react positively, and your kids will pick up on that, and then the rest of it gets really easy.
Yeah.
And so it's a significant event. We have had kids, very high level athletes, come through our program, and yet the reality is they play hundreds of games throughout their high school career, and so sometimes the games in our tournament may or may not have made as big an impact on them as many other games that they play. But I've spoken to athletes who've played in our tournament and also participated in the Wow Center event, and the Wow Center event is instantly rememberable because
Yeah.
they say, "Oh, I remember that. I
Because it sets it
remember."
apart.
I tell my friends about when we were there and being able to participate in that and the fun that they had in participating. So it's a
Yeah.
special event.
Yeah. So now, Chuck's real job, he's CFO of America. Okay, hold on. Charter America Holdings.
Yes.
Um, so when you're not doing basketball, which is a full time job in itself, because you heard how many things he does all year. Used to be one tournament, certain number of days, which takes a lot to organize just one tournament. But you made it like year round. Every time we turn around, basketball's coming up.
Well,
Uh,
and one of the things when I took over the chairmanship, and Andy Weston was the predecessor, and he developed some of the ideas and was a good base for us to start with. And there were a couple things that I decided early on that I wanted to do to change the look and feel of our event. Number one is I added a girls' wing to the tournament.
which I
Okay,
loved.
and
Yeah.
so we felt that it was the right thing to do. It wasn't a question about any other thing other than the fact that it was the right thing to do.
Right.
And secondly, was as part of our role in the community is to invite guests into our community and make them feel welcome when they
Right.
come down here. And so once we started inviting teams, word of mouth is really what developed because anymore over the past 10 years, I don't really have to go looking for teams.
Exactly.
Word of mouth is very important. And so when you get a good, strong recommendation throughout the coaching fraternity, that's important. And so when someone recommends us to another coach, we know it's coming from a good person, and we
Yeah.
know it's coming from a team that's used to traveling, used to playing at high level of competition. And so the interview process is usually fairly quick.
Yeah.
But we've been very fortunate to have some great coaches and some great programs come through our event. And so adding the girls tournament was a big part, and then adding the teams from around the country, and then even branched out further. We've had a team from Canada, we've had a team from Puerto Rico, and we've had both a boys and a girls teams from Slovenia over in Europe.
Right.
That was a project that literally took about 10 years to do
Wow.
because it's a huge fundraising effort on their part. It's a
Yeah.
lot of coordination on their part with visas and travel plans, et cetera. But the gentleman that we worked with is just a super individual in terms of his contribution to his local community, and he made it happen. And
Wow.
so the response from those kids was just worth every bit of effort that we ever put
Yeah.
into it. They were amazing kids, and they just had the time of their life.
Now I remember that for a long time, and I don't know if it's still going on, that a lot of the expense for the hotels when they stay here was picked up by Kiwanis. Is that right?
Well, it's through our Junior Orange Bowl committee um, budget. Our Miami Kiwanis Youth Foundation has a grant program where they provide not just a Junior Orange Bowl, but this past year to probably 12 other South Florida 501c3s.
Right.
And so we each put in proposals as to what we want to do for the community for youth recreational projects. And so we were successful. Now, the actual money that comes in from the Kiwanis actually goes to help us run the actual event.
Actual event. Oh,
But
okay.
the cost of the hotels is something that's done through other fundraising that we do
Oh,
throughout the
okay.
year.
Yeah, I
And so,
wasn't quite clear
yes,
on that.
and also we've had good relationships with the hotel industry here in town. There's no secret that the last weekend of the year is a hot weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, and so this year is different. Yes, I understand that. But obviously, with South Florida and the New Year's and the Orange Bowl game and a lot of other activities going on here in town, hotels could sell their hotel rooms for any price that you actually just put on the map.
Yeah.
They've been very good to us in terms of helping us to get a lower price to bring these teams in who are on limited resources, and we're on limited resources. So the hotels have been excellent.
Yeah. And I know you've got some great contacts over the years with them, and hats off to those.
Yes.
Uh, so, so tell me more about how Andy twisted your arm to get involved with the Junior Orange Bowl.
Actually, it goes back through our Kiwanis connection. I mean, we were
Is that
both
right?
members of the Miami Kiwanis Club. We had done a basketball project at the college level for 2 years, several years before that, and it was again a very enjoyable project. We lost a lot of money on it, and it took us 2 years of fundraising through our Kiwanis Club to pay all the bills. But we paid all the bills. But we just found out that from an economic standpoint, running a college tournament was extremely difficult. And so, therefore, Andy
Yeah.
decided to start down at the youth level to start doing a project that's much more um, within our range of cost in order to do it. Now, since that time, my budget now this year compared to the budget that Andy worked with is like night and day. It was a very small budget at the start. I've chosen through the various activities I've added to make it a much larger budget. And with
Right.
that comes the responsibility to go find the money. But he created the model. And since we had already worked together on Kiwanis projects and also on youth sports, he and I both had sons who played in youth sports and played
Yeah.
on the same teams together.
Oh,
And so we coached on our kids' teams, and so we'd had a good relationship along the way. And so when he asked me to step in and help him uh, on the basketball junior Orange Bowl basketball project, it was an easy twist.
yeah, an easy twist. Yeah, and then as if basketball weren't enough for you, you ultimately became president of the Junior Orange Bowl. Hats off to you because there is a full time job. Uh,
Well, it was a great year. It was a wonderful year, um, and like each person who sits in that job, you have to decide, okay, how am I going to interact? How am I going to coordinate? And the office staff does a great job of doing that. Okay. But the only thing that I did was I was going to make sure, and I learned from my first entrance into Junior Orange Bowl, the influence of the president when I was the first year chair was amazing. Albert Treyas was the
oh,
president
Albert.
of Junior
Yeah.
Orange Bowl when I was a first year chairman. And Albert was such a positive influence. And when he sat down with me, his first thought was, Chuck, how can I help you be the best event that you can possibly be? He says, I'm your biggest fan. Let me know what I can do in order to help you do whatever it is that you want to do. Sadly, Albert passed away during his term as president.
Right.
He had an anesthesia problem in a surgery that he underwent,
Rotator cuff.
and
Yeah.
so he died during that year tragically. But Albert was such a positive influence, and he focused on doing a lot of one-on-one things with the chairman. Okay, and I kind of took that idea and said for each one of the chairs, rather than have a big, highly visible events. And so at the time when I took over basketball, it was just a small event.
Yeah.
And so, but Junior Orange Bowl allowed me the flexibility to go take that event and kind of form it into whatever I thought was appropriate, still within the Junior Orange Bowl mission.
Well, when you and I first met, I was executive director of the Junior Orange Bowl, and that used to be the thing. People would come to me with great ideas, and I'd go, "Oh, let's do it. How are we going to pay for it?" And so all we had to do was figure out how to pay for it,
Well, and
and
it's a
it
big
became.
challenge.
But you know what? When you have people that are passionate about what they want, it's an easier sell than you would think.
It's an easier sell, but it's still a challenge. I
It
mean,
is.
people have,
Well, some people are good salespeople, and some people
but
aren't.
also people have their own decisions to make in terms of charitable dollars to be distributed out throughout the community.
Mhm.
And the good news and the bad news is the good news is, for the most part, we're dealing with healthy, happy children. And
Exactly.
so, therefore, there are diseases, there are fundraising causes that are benefiting children who have significant challenges in their life. And so
Mhm.
they tend to be higher in the priority list in terms of people's giving. That's
Yeah.
understood.
Yeah.
There's no second guessing that. That being said, we think that what we're doing for the children of our community is second to none. And so when I go out and I ask my business colleagues and my associates to contribute to our activity, I do it with a clear understanding that our event is as good an event as there is going. And so I'll stand behind it. And so I won't back down from asking for money. And so it took a little while to get used to that. Asking for money is not an easy thing to do.
Well, yeah, but like you said, when you're passionate about it, and I'm the biggest cheerleader in the world for Junior Orange Bowl. Uh, I moved on to Community Foundation, but Junior Orange Bowl has always been my love, and it's something I thought, and probably a lot of people thought, oh, we'll do this for a couple of years and we'll move on and we'll volunteer someplace else. But it was Junior Orange Bowl because you've got so many different ways to get involved, from the creative arts to photography, performing arts, and we've got everything. So,
Well, and that's one of the things that I learned from the time that I was president and also sitting on the board of Junior Orange Bowl is that when you have volunteers come through your organization, one of the things that you have to understand is they have a limited lifespan within your organization. I'm a total anomaly.
well,
I don't fit into any of the rules, but there are going to be a lifespan probably of coordinating with probably their children's ages as they come through
sometimes, yeah, you're
some of
right.
the events. But all you can do is thank them for their service and be happy for the years that they spent with you
Hmm.
and not be disappointed when they leave you, because that's going to happen. Okay. And so you just say, okay, you have to continue to replenish your volunteer base, but people are only going to be with you probably for 3, 4, 5, 6 years.
Is that
And
all?
that's fine. You say, thank you very much. We appreciate your efforts, and
And
move
then we
on to
have
the.
people like you, Barbara Waters, all these people, golf, JR. There's so many people that have been doing things for years and years. Uh,
and
that
and and they've each developed their events based upon their concept of what that event needs to do
mm,
for the community and for the kids.
right.
And each one of them will have different impacts. The golf and tennis events are major international events,
Oh,
and they've developed over long periods of time with strong volunteer bases and a strong participation by the kids. But they've done amazing jobs. The
yeah.
tennis event and the golf events are truly marvelous
Actually, they've made the Junior Orange
organizations.
Bowl better known outside, globally than possibly nationally because of all the international connections they have.
Yeah, they do,
Yeah.
and they're great committees.
Yeah.
And so down again, when I took over this, it was a 4-team boys tournament, local teams only,
Yeah.
etc. So
I
as we
remember.
expanded it, one of the things that you learn, hard lessons sometimes, but you learn in terms of fundraising, and I developed this rule. It says 100% of the people that you don't ask for money will not give you money.
So true.
And so you have to get past that, and you have to say, if I don't ask this person, there's 100% chance that they're not going to give me any money. And
Right.
so being said no to is okay,
Yeah.
because I believe in what we do, and I'm happy to present their opportunity to participate with us.
Yeah. Well, I'm just so delighted that you came on board when you did, and it was such a pleasure to see over the years how you grew it, and made it like your own thing, but with an amazing cast of people that helped you. I've been to several of the tournaments, and they're very, very exciting. And it's such a shame that we can't have a crowd because I remember sitting in the bleachers at Doral that Miami Christian School was playing, and had so much fun. And
Well, like I say,
the crowd loved it.
this year is an unusual year. We'll get through it,
Yeah. Hmm.
and the coaches know it, the kids know it, the parents
Yeah.
know it. Say, okay, we're going to get through this year. We're going to do the best that we can do for these kids during this year, and then hopefully following years we can kind of get back to a normalized basis, because the people who canceled their contracts to come with us this year aren't going away, and
No.
they are sorely missing the opportunity to come belong with us. And so, looking back over the history, there's so many things that I've been thankful for in terms of participating in this event. I have kids who were players in our event who are now coaches at the high school level
Hmm.
and coaching in our tournament.
Right.
I have
That's kind of fun.
kids who are now coaching that have their children play in our event. So there are second generations that are coming through here. I see, like I say, a lot of times I'll look at this last weekend, I was going through the roster information that the team sent me, and I'll take a look at the names of the coaches and I'll say, I know that name.
Because he played in the tournament?
Some of them were young ladies and some of them were young men that played in our tournament, and now they're back as coaches and they're
Isn't
helping to
that
continue
fun?
the efforts to mentor and coach their kids.
Yeah. So, well, over the years, I've grown to love you and love your event, and appreciate so much the dedication that you've given to the Junior Orange Bowl. And I hope people understand what a commitment it is, because it is truly a huge commitment. But um, tell us again, just to wrap up a little bit, tell us again the dates and how people, if their parents would like to get tickets to the games that are being played.
Well, the games are December 28, 29, and 30. That's a
Hmm.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the week after Christmas.
Right.
The teams that are participating can have a maximum of 50 tickets per game for each of the 3 days.
So they have to contact the
And
school.
so it's best for them to go to the teams. We will have the team names published in our website. Uh, but also, if there are any questions, they can always contact the Junior Orange Bowl office. The
Mhm.
Junior Orange Bowl office will have this information, and they'll let the people know what they can and can't do.
And that
Number is 305
six,
662 1210.
right,
And email address is fernanda@jrorangebowl.org.
right.
And so she will have the information there. I've already had contact. The Miami Herald published an article about our event.
I saw that. That was so nice.
Yes, Bill Daly, who writes for the Herald,
Yeah.
who's covered our event for many years, put an article in the paper and explained those same limitations
Right.
and the COVID-related restrictions that we're going through. And as soon as he published the article, I got the first phone call, and I had to remind the person. I said, you need to go through the teams
Right.
and talk to that coach and the athletic director to see if in fact they have availability of tickets.
Yeah.
Because we are going to have to maintain that hard cap of 50 tickets, and that's all
That's
we can
great.
do this year.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming today. It's always a delight to see you. And folks, we'll be back in January with actually more Junior Orange Bowl. I'm hoping to have the Steve Gonzalez, the president of the Junior Orange Bowl, talk about some of the other mini events that are going on. But there's so much going on in our community. So coming up Tomorrow is Gringo Bingo. So if anybody's watching and not doing anything, it's outside at Clutchburger. Limited number of seats, but if you want to come, go to Gloria at cnews.net. Let me know, and we'll let you know if there's room for you. Again, thanks a lot, Chuck, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.